We bought an island a year ago, and it looked like this. Had nothing on it. Nobody had touched it, and nothing had been built on it. And now, 1 year later, we just finished building an island tiny home. Kind of like a builder's hut. So now we're going to be using it to be our little home while we build the much, much bigger projects. Like, for example, that's only 5 meters squared, which is about 50 square feet. Our sauna cabin, which is the next one we're going to build, is 250 square feet, a little bit more, 25 meters squared. And then on top of that, our plan is to someday build the main super big 1,000 plus square foot, 100 meters squared log cabin out here on the island. We're gonna do a price breakdown now that it's done, tell you guys how much it costs. I had no experience going into this, never built a thing in my life. So, I mean, I feel like if I was able to build that thing, I really do think anybody can. We used logs from the island itself. We really wanted to keep this thing as cheap as possible, and I feel like we did a pretty good job. The logs are from the island, and everything else we basically got the cheapest version possible while still being, good. We also have a whole bunch of other kind of extremities that we'll go through, which is like our deck out here on the front. We made a floating dock and barge kind of thing so we can transport materials out here to the island, as well as a warm shower. Also have a solar setup, so this whole thing is running off of solar. We're completely off grid here. It is enough for us to use all of our electric power tools, make videos, film, do all those things, all from just a few solar panels. First thing we'll go through is the dock and barge. To build both of them, we needed a few things. One, we needed barrels so that we could float. We needed decking to stand on. We needed the framing wood, as well as some hardware to connect the docks and connect us to the ground. The barrels were only 50 euros. We bought them used on just like a secondhand marketplace, got all 6 of them for 50 bucks. So that was a pretty good deal. Then we got the decking. The amount of decking we used for this was about 90 euros worth. So not too bad. It was €1 a meter, and it was heat treated wood. And then we had the stuff for the framing, which was pressure treated wood, and that was about 175 euros. And definitely the most expensive part of the build, but we didn't use logs for this. It's one of the only things or frames that we didn't use log for, because it's right over the water. It's going to be going in and out all the time. One other thing too is logs are really, really heavy, and it's a lot of unnecessary weight for something like this, and we're using this as a barge to transport materials out here to the island. And if it was made of log, we'd be wasting a lot of our floating capacity on just the frame. One of the other things is the hardware, whether it was the ground screws and the mounting hardware to get the dock together. That was another about 50 euros. And the last thing was these stairs. Those things, Jesus Christ, they are expensive. It was 100 bucks for those as well. So all in all, definitely one of the pricier things I feel like we've built out here, but it is a game changer. One, the barge, just being able to use it, transport materials out here to the island. Huge, huge upgrade on the rowboat. No offense to the rowboat. Now let's go on to the deck. It's the same decking that we used for the dock, so it's €1 per meter, and it's heat treated wood. This one we had about 100 euros worth. It's like about 100 meters. It's 3 meters by 3.6 meters. So math. The frame is made completely out of logs that we felled here on the island, right next to where the deck was. So that was free. On top of that, the only other thing we needed was basically the foundation kind of to hold it up, and that is concrete slabs and some cinder blocks. I think we spent about 50 bucks on all the materials to do that. Those things have been my favorite to build. Those decks, they're really cool. Building them out of the logs, I love it. And they seem to be working. We have another one on the other side of the island that we built, first thing we built, and it's still holding strong. So hopefully this one can last for a while as well. Coming over here to the other side of the cabin, this is our solar setup. We have 3 400-watt panels, which comes into 1,200 watts. It's over paneling our power station, but because we're in a pretty bad spot when it comes to trees, we're still not pulling our full 1,200, but it is enough so that we can stay out here, keep everything charged, and we don't have to worry about bringing our batteries off the island to charge them. So that is a huge plus, and it's been working really well in the summer. We haven't had it after that, but Finland, the sun never sets in the summertime, but it barely comes up in the wintertime. So this is more of a summertime and maybe spring fall solution. The panels themselves were 59 bucks a piece. So what is that? 180 bucks for all 3 of them. And then I needed a cord to extend them to the cabin, which was another 50 bucks. So not too bad. And then coming down our little path, we have the shower. It works really well. It gets us hot water from the lake, and it's heated with propane. It is, once again, built out of logs, or kind of like twigs. We have a tankless water heater. I think that was about 140 bucks or something. We didn't actually purchase that. It got sent to us by a company, but I really wanted this set up, so they decided to hook us up. We needed a little metal roofing sheet. That was 35 bucks. Other than that, there's only a few little hinges, maybe 5 more bucks. But the big cost in order to get this thing running, and in the future, hopefully we can get more water coming from it, is the water pump. And the water pump is down there. It has given me a lot of problems trying to get the water pump set up, because we had an old one, didn't end up working, it broke. But now we got a new water pump. It was 140 euros as well. We needed a hose for it, which was another 35. So in total, the shower, for being a shower, I mean, not the cheapest thing in the setup. It's something we're gonna be able to use for a very long time, and the water pump is gonna be used for other stuff too. We wanna eventually get a sink out on the deck. Now we can move on to the biggest and the main thing here, which is the island tiny home itself, this little log cabin. It is 2 meters by 2.5 meters, which is 5 meters squared, about 50 square feet, a little bit more. It is where we're staying now. We basically wanted something that we could pop up as fast as possible, and we used the extra kind of tips of logs that we're going to be using for the sauna cabin, which is our much larger cabin coming soon. They were getting too thin and too skinny at the tips, where we couldn't use them as logs for that log cabin anymore. And instead of just turning them into firewood, we decided, why not try and make a little miniature tiny home out of it? And on top of that, it gives us a way to practice making windows, making doors, putting on a roof, all these things, because I had never done it before, and I don't want to ruin the massive cabin that's going to take so much time and so much resources to build. So this kind of became our tester, and now it's turning into this really cool little tiny home out here on the island. I'm really glad we did it. And this was built using the butt and pass method when it comes to log cabins, which is by far the fastest way, but definitely not the best way, I would say, when it comes to other things. It is the only one I've built, so I have no experience with the other ones yet. From what I've read and what I've heard, it is basically, you know, the corners, there's no notches, there's no nothing. They literally slide in, you screw them down, and that is it. Or you can use like pegs or spikes or something like that, but we use screws. We're not doing that for the sauna cabin or any of our other cabins. We're probably going to be doing a saddle notch, which is a lot more traditional around here in Finland. It is a lot, you know, more secure of a fit, a lot better insulating properties, a lot better corners, a lot better in a lot of ways. So we're going to be doing that, but it does take a lot longer. So that is going to be the sauna. This was butt and pass. And when it comes to costs, the first thing that we needed was a foundation. And our foundation for this thing is just a few concrete pads and a cinder block on top. And those were, I mean, same as for the deck, is actually cheaper because there's only 4 corners and there's 4 of each. So it was only 20 bucks or something like that for the foundation, which was not too bad. After the foundation, it came to the actual building part, I feel like, and that was logs, which we did source from the island here. We cut them and basically put them right into them. They are green, fresh logs, which does come with its negatives. Logs shrink over time, and that means that everything's kind of going to be moving in the cabin. We might have to re-chink it. We might have to redo a few things to make it stay good, but using green logs means that we could build something right away. The logs were free. Then screws. I did use a good amount of screws. Every single log has 5 screws going through it. There's 3 going in through the top of each one, and then on the sides there's 1 going through each corner. So that comes to what, 16 screws per layer. I think we're about 17 layers tall. I needed 275 screws to build this thing, and that came out to be $130 worth of screws, which is a decent amount. I feel like that's more than I was expecting to spend on screws. We used screws that only the last little tip are like the serrated screw part, and then the top part is smooth. I put a washer on the top and screwed it in so that the serrated part is only in the bottom log. The top log has the smooth part, so theoretically, it's gripped on the bottom log. The top log can kind of move around a bit because they're gonna be moving a lot, and it doesn't create too much of a problem, and because they're all screwed in together, they should move as a unit, and ideally we don't have to re-chink, we don't have to do other things, but we'll see how it goes. This thing just got finished, so I don't know if it's gonna end up being a problem or what, but so far it's been really good. Then it came to the stuff that we actually had to start spending money on, which was really annoying. We did the roof first, and you can't really use logs for a roof. I did use them, as you can see here, for the beams, but we needed somewhere to put the roofing material, so that is some OSB up top. The OSB for the entire roof, which the roof is 4 meters by 4 meters, was $200. The roof definitely ended up being the most expensive part of this project because after the OSB, we needed like vapor barrier thing, which was another, I think, $30. And then after that, you know, the asphalt roofing itself, we used rolls for it. We needed, I think, 4 rolls of the material. They were like $80 a roll. So that was around $300 in roofing felt stuff, then some roofing nails, which was, you know, another $20 or something like that. The roof has insulation in it as well. We did rock wool. I think the rock wool was only like $40 though for the entire thing. One pack happened to be like the exact amount we needed. So it wasn't super expensive for the insulation in there. And we used rock wool because it is really fire resistant. And I do think at some point we are going to put a heater, like a fireplace in this thing to keep it warm, because we are going to be working out here in the winter times, and the winters get cold. They get cold here in Finland. So the roof started adding up. That was definitely the most expensive part of the mini cabin, I'd say. The other thing that we needed was floors. Floors, we have some floor joist hangers. They weren't super expensive. I mean, a few bucks a piece. Then the joists themselves, once again, made out of logs. We're trying to be as cheap as possible when it comes to the build. But then we needed wood for the flooring. We could have used OSB again, which might have been cheaper, but we ended up doing plywood because it's got a higher weather rating, so it should last a lot longer when it comes from all the moisture coming up from the ground. Plywood was $100 for 2 sheets, which was enough to fill the entire inside of the cabin. There is fin foam as the insulation in there. I ended up going with fin foam because it is, from what I was researching, the best when it comes to mice and stuff. It is like a kind of, it's an XPS, I think, which is like a foam. And apparently the mice don't really like it, which is good because I don't really have any like wiring or blocking from underneath, and there's no extra layer of plywood, but it should still keep us warm. It doesn't care if it gets wet. It doesn't matter when it comes to moisture. So I just thought that would be the easiest, but it did come at a bit of a cost. It was $125 for the foam insulation on the inside, and then it was another $20 for the spray foam that we did around the edges to make sure that it stayed nice and tight and sealed. For the inside, we needed floors, and they went on top of the plywood. Those were another 140 euros. Then we had the ceiling, which we did some roof paneling on, so the rock wool wasn't just sticking out. The roofing was 60. Window, that's a big thing. We did a big one. It's 1.2 meters by 1.2 meters. It looks good. We've got a nice view, so why not enjoy it? That thing was, I think, $230. It's like a cabin window, so it didn't have gaskets. It didn't have a lot of stuff going on with it, but we got it in there. And in order to put the window in, we needed to make a buck for it, or like a frame. And you need to put the side, you need to make like a little 2x2 that goes into the log cabin walls, so that when the wood shrinks over time, which it will, because it's fresh, and in general logs, you know, absorb moisture, so they change sizes quite often. If you screw directly into the logs, the window will crack and break because it's gonna have so much force trying to move it. And so you need to make the spline. And those were really annoying. So we needed the spline, the buck, the door frame, all those things. It cost $80 for all that. Then I ended up building the door myself. I wanted to make it as, you know, cheap as possible. I think it's 2x8s put together. We ended up needing 2 big strips of it. It was $50 for the materials to build the door. I ended up getting a branch from a birch tree and used that as the door handle. I think it looks pretty cool and free. There was some door, pieces to make it shut. I think that was another 10 bucks on there. We did a few more things to the outside, which is one, chinking. We needed linen to go in between all of the gaps so that we don't have cracks in the walls, because we'll show some shots of before. I mean, it's button pass. You can see right through the walls, basically. That got filled with this like linen strips. Those strips, we needed about 9 packs. I think it ended up being about $100 worth of linen. Then we got another bag of just loose linen for the corners, since the corners are these weird shapes and they're just all different sizes. The loose linen was the best bet there. It was another $70 for this massive 5-kilo bag of loose linen. The last thing we needed to do to the cabin was treat it so that the logs will last and they won't decay over time. We're probably gonna have to do it every handful of years, maybe 5-ish years. We did pine tar, linseed oil, and then a little bit of turpentine. The pine tar is the main ingredient, I'd say. It's a very traditional way of doing it here in Finland. Basically protects the logs when it comes to UV, when it comes to rain, when it comes to all sorts of stuff. And I really like the way it makes it look. It's this really dark color, so it makes them kind of darker, and I think it looks really cool. But it's really, really thick. So to thin it out and allow it to penetrate even deeper into the wood so that it protects it even better, you can add linseed oil, which we had some boiled linseed oil in there. For 3 liters, I think the pine tar was $35. And then when it came to the linseed oil, we got a 5-liter can because we used just the straight up linseed oil on the interior. That was $40. And then we also added turpentine or turpentine. I don't know how you say it. I think we had like $30 worth of it as well. So treating the cabin did cost a bit, but I mean, it has to be done so that we can have this cabin for a long time and it doesn't just decay. One more thing that we had to buy and do was the furniture on the inside. Luckily, we had a good amount of leftovers when it came to the wood from the door frame and the door and the bucks. So we used that stuff as well for the desk. And then we ended up buying some more wood to do the bed frame, but the legs for the bed and the legs for the desk, we used logs once again to keep it pretty cheap. And then for shelves, we ended up using the leftovers from the roof paneling. We put some on the inside, some on the outside. We've got extra decking and stuff that we're using for shelves on the outside of the cabin, and we put some screws into the wall so that we can keep our tools on the outside. All in all, how much was the entire mini cabin? Pretty sure we counted everything and all the stuff in there, and it's about 1,700 euros, which I feel like is more than I thought it was gonna cost. I'm happy with what we were able to do for the money. I feel like it's definitely worth it. And then for all the extremities, that's not added in the cost. They were all another close to $1,000. We're probably around 2,500 in on building materials when it comes to this whole setup. It's a huge upgrade. When you think about what we were in before, we had the tent. I think the big ass tent that we had, we got like the super cheap China version, and it was, I think, about $500. Massive 5-meter bell tent. It's basically the same price as like the premium ones or the nice ones that aren't from like the cheap Chinese sites. The island isn't just an island anymore. Like, we have a cabin. Now we've got a whole bunch of more projects to go, and I'm so happy that we did this because I learned a lot about how to build and what to do. Now I'm kind of a little bit more prepped when it comes to building our sauna cabin, which is coming up next. That's gonna be our next project. I'm gonna start digging holes for the foundation up now. I can't wait to get started on that thing. That is the dream. You need a sauna at a summer cottage in Finland. Like, it's not a summer cottage without one. It's been so much fun doing it so far, and I legitimately had no experience starting this. Like, never built anything. I built like a tiny little stool in like 6th grade for wood shop class. That's my experience when it came to building things, and I've somehow been able to build this thing. And I really do think that all the stuff that I'm doing, if I'm able to figure it out and do it, I think anybody can. It's been a lot of fun so far. We've got a long way to go, but thank you everyone so much for watching, and I hope you guys enjoy the next year of building a sauna cabin.